In optimization theory, a local maximum trap occurs when a system climbs toward a short-term peak while remaining blind to the broader landscape. By prioritizing immediate gains, the algorithm eventually reaches a point where continuing its current trajectory leads to systemic failure. This chart captures the pre-2008 Starbucks strategy. Store growth surged through aggressive expansion, but stock price entered a sustained decline, optimizing for scale over viability. On the ground, this saturation was destructive. New stores physically cannibalized existing ones, competing against itself for the same customers. This relentless expansion eroded the core brand experience. What was once a premium destination became a commoditized fast food operation, staffed by a workforce that felt increasingly disconnected from the product they served. The internal crisis coincided with the 2008 Great Recession. Market volatility and a freeze in consumer spending created a hostile financial environment threatening survival. Pure quantitative growth, when disconnected from a strategic framework, inevitably collapses the underlying network. In January 2008, Howard Schultz returned as CEO to overhaul the organization's trajectory. His immediate intervention was a total cessation of service. He shut down 7,100 U.S. stores for an entire afternoon to retrain every barista on the fundamentals of espresso quality. The decision resulted in millions of dollars in lost revenue, inviting intense skepticism from analysts on Wall Street. To execute a strategic pivot of this massive scale requires a complete systemic override of the entire company's established programming. Executing this override required two specific frameworks: strategic decision-making to determine the new path, and persuasive communication to ensure the organizational network adopted it. For data scientists and engineers, these skills provide the systemic algorithms required to debug and reprogram a human network. Organizations distinguish between program decisions, routine procedures used to handle frequent events, and non-program decisions, which are unique, complex interventions required during a crisis. The 2008 collapse lacked a standard operating procedure. Resolving it required true strategic thinking rather than simply following an existing manual. Management theorist Henry Mintzberg defines strategic thinking as a balance between two cognitive processes, planning and synthesis. The planning side is convergent and rational. It involves breaking down complex data to optimize resources. Schultz applied this convergent logic by permanently closing 600 underperforming stores. But the synthesis side is divergent and creative. It uses intuition to explore solutions that data alone might not reveal. This divergent thinking led to an investment of $30 million in employee health insurance during a global recession. The logic was qualitative. Rebuilding the brand's premium value required restoring the soul of the company, which could only be achieved through a secure and motivated workforce. Effective strategy requires a balance between mathematical optimization and long-term investment in human capital. This human-centric approach is the core of ethical decision-making, a framework where choices are guided by moral values and the long-term impact on stakeholders rather than just quarterly outcomes. We see the viability of this model in the leadership of the late Ratan Tata. The Tata Group consistently prioritized social responsibility and transparency, maintaining community commitments even when it resulted in lower immediate financial gains. By providing healthcare to workers during a crisis, Schultz used the same underlying logic. He prioritized honesty and fairness to ensure the organization's long-term credibility. Ethical decisions serve as a structural shield, building a level of trust that ensures organizational survival when the broader market fluctuates. A logically sound strategy fails if the people within the system refuse to execute it. Persuasion is the mechanism that ensures the network adopts the new plan. To understand this process, we use the Elaboration-Likelihood Model, which maps how people process persuasive messages. Persuasion depends on 4 variables: communicator, message, channel, and audience. These route based on motivation. The central route is used when an audience pays close attention, relying on high elaboration to carefully analyze the arguments. Schultz used this route to logically align his leadership team. In contrast, the peripheral route is taken when motivation is low. Instead of deep analysis, audiences rely on simple heuristics and external cues. Robert Cialdini identified the specific principles that govern this route, including authority and social proof. By returning as the founder, Schultz instantly utilized the principle of authority. His status provided an external cue that signaled stability to the peripheral processors on Wall Street and in the stores. Effective leadership requires routing a single strategic message through both of these cognitive channels to ensure total organizational alignment. Consider the impact of shutting down 7,100 stores for a single afternoon. This closure functioned as a high-impact communicative signal. By halting all routine operations, Schultz emphasized that the organization was undergoing a radical shift in its standard procedures. Most organizations operate on a peripheral autopilot, where routine communications like internal memos are often filtered out or ignored. The total cessation of service functioned as a system-wide shock. It forced employees and stakeholders to abandon their autopilot assumptions and pay deep central route attention to the new strategic direction. To achieve true alignment, where individual behavior matches corporate vision, a leader must sometimes disrupt the system to force the network into active cognitive processing. The quantitative results of this strategy were undeniable. Starbucks restored its profitability, leading to a rebound that saw the stock price quintuple within 5 years. The disorganized, cannibalistic nodes were replaced by a stable and synchronized network. For those in data science, the lesson is clear. Raw data and perfect models do not speak for themselves in a corporate setting. You must use strategic synthesis to find the correct path, and then use the ELM framework to systematically route that path into the human consciousness. These skills provide the essential translation layer between mathematical theory and real-world execution.